Hey, good morning. How are you? It is 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson filling in for Chris Hand. And I'm actually quite confused about the schedule today. I don't know exactly what's going to happen after this. I think coming up, I'll have Chris Hand, who's filling in for Chad Benson, and Chad Benson will fill in for Matt Murphy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think that's the plan. Hey, Mason, how are you?
Doing well. How you doing, Brian?
Doing very well. But yeah, I think that is the plan today. And so we got a lot of things going on that need a lot of watching, especially in the swamp. Again, I'm Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand, and you're listening to the Chris Hand Show. And it's all about the big, beautiful bill. Interesting, somebody pointed out, when you when you have the control of the title of something, then you force the other side to use that title. And that's been what Trump has done. It's a big, beautiful bill. I mean, the Democrats hate it, but they're still calling it the big, beautiful bill. Isn't that funny? But Trump has got a problem in the United States Senate, where they have been in this vote-a-rama, and the vote-a-rama remains open at this time. And apparently there are problems. So Trump leaving the White House a short time ago to go down to Florida to see the alligator Alcatraz. He did stop by cameras and talked a little bit about where things are. It seems to be stuck at the moment.
The Republicans have their heart in it. The Democrats they just want to destroy our country. A Democrat wants to destroy the country. They won't vote on it. They don't vote on anything. This is the biggest tax cut in history. Everything is the biggest in history. It's the best bill we've ever had. We can't get one Democrat vote.
When do you think we'll get final passage of the bill?
Hopefully soon. Hopefully today, if we can. Final passage. When I say final, let's take Senate at a time, okay? But I think Senate should be today, and we go to the House.
And what about Senator Murkowski? Is there any way to placate her?
Who knows? You tell me. You tell me. Is there? Alaska's done so well with me. There's never been a president better to Alaska than me. But it doesn't mean people appreciate it. Have a good time.
And so there was the president as he departed the White House lawn to go down to Florida for an event today. And as you heard there, one of the problems seems to be Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Senate Majority Leader John Thune's ability to pass the big, beautiful bill is hinging on Senator Lisa Murkowski, writes Politico. The Alaska senator has been the subject of an intense whip effort by GOP leaders over the past couple of hours as they try to offer her reassurances on Medicaid and food assistance. Thune, Finance Chair Mike Crapo, Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso talked to Murkowski on the floor for roughly an hour overnight. Thune and Murkowski huddled briefly in his office, and they were mum on details of where they emerged shortly before 4 a.m. Yeah, they were working at 4 a.m. this morning. The Senate parliamentarian ruled just a few moments ago that a proposed SNAP carve-out for an expanded list of states, including Alaska, are compliant with the bird rule. Got to have the bird bath. But the parliamentarian ruled a provision that would have boosted federal payments for Medicaid in Alaska and 4 other states is non-compliant, according to a person granted anonymity to share the decision. Murkowski is among Republicans been pushing to an amendment to undo the rollback of clean energy credits under the Biden-era climate law. Thune insisted reporters moments ago that senators were closing in on the end of their vote-a-rama. We are close, adding that they have a few more amendments from senators and a final so-called wraparound amendment to come. But they've been at this for a while now. And the question is, can they actually get it across the goal line? You heard the president there. He said, how can you placate Lisa Murkowski? Who knows? He said, what do you think? You got any opinion about this? Because I don't know. So there you have that. This big, beautiful bill, I mean, I'm telling you, it is a big dog deal. Vice President J.D. Vance is at the Capitol now. He'll be there throughout the day because if they get to 50 votes, he would be the one who came in and broke the tie. They're not at 50 votes yet, from what I'm hearing, from what I'm reading. Now, will Murkowski stand her ground? Who knows with Murkowski? You cannot predict her. And I don't think, I quite frankly don't think she's running for re-election when it comes, so she doesn't care. She doesn't. There's nothing you can hold over her. You can say, well, we're going to primary you. I mean, a lot of people think Murkowski's just, an inch away from becoming a Democrat anyway. But she's there sometimes. She's not there this time. And the question is, can this big, beautiful bill get across the goal line? And if it doesn't, what would be the implications of that? It would be bad. I mean, this is the signature piece right here. This is, you've got one shot and only one shot when you're an incoming president to get your big stuff passed, and it's usually within the first 6 months. So guess what? We're at exactly halfway through the year now. Today is halfway through the year. Trump has been in office since January 20th, and he's got to get this across because, you know what? In the second half of this year, they're already starting to talk about the midterm elections. So if you're going to get anything accomplished as a new president, your best shot is to do it right off the bat. And they have made this a tantalizing bill, and they've also made it very difficult to vote against the bill because if you vote against the bill, you are voting to increase taxes by 68%. Nobody wants that. Stephen Miller, last night on Sean Hannity, gave an impassioned plea. This is the president's top advisor on immigration and other things, but he had a lot to say about the big, beautiful bill last night on the Hannity show.
I've spent my entire life in the conservative movement. Since I was a kid in high school, working, dreaming of the day where we could have a piece of legislation like what exists right now, Sean, what President Trump has brought to the precipice of passage. Each and every one of the individual titles in this bill would be considered one of the great achievements in the history of the conservative movement. The title, for example, building the missile defense shield for the United States of America so we can be safe, our children can be safe from foreign adversaries in this growing era of intercontinental ballistic missiles as nations race for supremacy. The section on this bill enshrining border and homeland security, this is the most far-reaching border security proposal, homeland security proposal in my lifetime. Sean, not just my lifetime, going back to Eisenhower, going back to since we've had conversations about the border, Sean. I take this seriously. I've stood by the families whose kids have been murdered by illegal aliens. We made them a promise. Most importantly, the American people voted to fulfill that promise in the last election. This bill fulfills it. It is the largest tax cut and reform in American history. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, 100% expensing for new factories. Think about that. Every single business owner with a dream of manufacturing in America can deduct 100% of that cost to make the American dream come true here in the United States. Here's another one for you, Sean. The largest welfare reform in American history. Work requirements on food stamps, work requirements on Medicaid, the two largest welfare programs that exist, and now we are attaching work requirements to those programs. Orders of magnitude larger than the welfare reform that Republicans enacted into law in the 1990s. I am sick and tired of the lies about this bill that have been perpetrated by opportunists who are trying to make a name for themselves. This is the most conservative bill in my lifetime. Tax cuts, defense, border security, homeland security, welfare reform, and the largest spending cut in one bill that has ever been enacted. So, Sean, let's work together. Let's pass this bill. Let's get it to President Trump's desk by July 4th.
Well, that would be a good thing. And if it's going to happen, it needs to happen today because it's still got to go back to the House of Representatives. You know, it's not just Murkowski. If you just lost Murkowski, you'd be okay. It's the combination of Murkowski and some other folks. Here's again from Politico, and a potential sign of just how dire Thune's whip count is looking in the wee hours. The majority leader huddled in his office with Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, who's long said he'll be a no over the provisions there that would allow a debt ceiling hike. Another big unknown, Susan Collins of Maine. The Maine senator reminded us less than 2 hours ago that she's had concerns with the bill all along, she says. And her bid to find more money for rural hospitals did not prevail, so she's not likely to be on board. Senator Rick Scott of Florida had a divisive amendment to scale back federal payments under the Affordable Care Act's Medicaid expansion. Scott had leadership support on this one, and he expects it to pass, but several senators have raised concerns with that. So then, if they can get it out of the Senate today, and by the way, I am actually, you want to hear what's happening on the floor of the Senate right now? Can you hear that? Yeah. Let me see if I can add some context to it, because I'm telling you, not much is going on there. I don't know. We're there. It's just silent. This is your government at work. But if it gets through the Senate today, it would then go over to the House, and it's got a heavy lift in the House as well. So there we go. Watching very closely to see what will happen. What's in the bill? You've heard some of it. I'll give you some more details about what will happen if this fails and what happens if it passes. Right now, it's 20 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Chris Ann.
Coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, what President Trump was warning about if his big, beautiful bill does not get passed. And also, what's being done to make your 4th of July holiday a little bit easier on the road. Stick around for that at 9:30 here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Jones, who's handling news duties this morning. Mason Fleming pushing the blinky button. Hey, Joan,
Yes, sir.
I know, you spent a lot of time in Washington just like I did, and you've watched these things come down to the last moments in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, and certainly, we've seen it, get tense. But my sense of it is when it really gets down to it, generally, these things do find a way to get passed. Is that your sense of it today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But don't you feel, this is how I feel about it, it's a little more dirty pool this time. There's a little bit more things happening in the background that seem like it's just dirty play on behalf of several people.
Yeah.
Including, of course, you're getting it from the left. But I feel like Susan Collins. You're not supposed to make fun of her, Brian.
I'm sorry. I know.
And Lisa Murkowski are really going for it this time.
And Rand Paul is a stumbling block as well here.
But I feel I feel like his his is the debt limit.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a valued reason for him to say, hang on. But Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins wanted for the wealthy to be taxed more.
Yeah.
That's not a Republican.
Not generally a precept you would ascribe to the Republican Party. That's right.
No, it's not. So very interesting how it's all panning out.
Yeah, I heard you say earlier when you were talking to Dan, because I sit and listen. I got to find out what to talk about. So I'm listening, you guys, because you're already plugged in. But, I'm just getting warmed up. But, you mentioned Chad Pergram, the reporter for Fox News, and his reporting. If you want to watch one person today that will give you the best guess of what's really going on behind the scenes, it's Chad Pergram.
Absolutely.
He's so good.
He's so good.
And I covered that institution. I walked those halls probably out of the 31 years I worked in Washington. I walked those halls maybe, 12 out of the 31.
Mm-hmm.
I was the chairman of the Radio TV Correspondents Association twice. So, I really do know this institution and had an office there and the whole 9 yards. And so, I've watched it, but my knowledge of that institution pales to Chad Pergram.
Had you ever worked alongside him at the same time he's in it? What?
I hired him.
You hired him?
I hired him when I was, there was a short period of time I was in management at Fox, and I hired him during that time period. And
good hire.
He's the Energizer Bunny of Capitol Hill. He just, to tell you, he is plugged in like nobody I have ever seen. His contacts are deep. And if you want to follow like an X feed or a Facebook account, follow Chad Pergram, P-E-R-G. It's like, like the town here in Tennessee, Pergram. Chad, as I used to call him, Chadley. You follow Chadley, and you will know what the heck is going on today. And he seems to he's. As I read, he's sort of keeping his powder dry. He's not making any predictions about what's going to happen because I think he thinks it's on the bubble.
Ah.
That's my thinking.
He certainly does put on an appearance that you never know how he feels about what's going on. He's very straight down the middle.
Yeah,
just one of the best of the best.
He's really at the top. He's the top of the best of the best in Washington, really is. And
agreed.
I was really glad when they made him the senior Capitol Hill correspondent, because for many years he was the producer there.
Oh.
And then he finally, but I said, why are you wasting this guy? He's so good. And he really is so good. So he's the guy to watch today. You'll get some sense of it by watching Chad Pergram.
I think he's actually taking a nap now because I'm seeing, and well deserved. But I'm seeing all kinds of, Aisha Hasni is there now. There's some other people who are handling those duties at the moment, but the guy's got to get some sleep. So
I
don't
know
blame him.
exactly where he is. He's back in his office, and he's got his feet up on the desk, and
There
he's
you
probably
go.
catching a quick nap. But he's been up all night long. I mean, Lisa Murkowski was in John Thune's office at 4 a.m. this morning.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So that tells you a little something. Well, anyway, we'll stay on top of this morning to see how this goes in the Senate. Right now, a little behind. Time to get to the news with Joan Jones.
Good morning. Now 9:31, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Well, President Trump took to social media overnight to warn that if his big, beautiful bill doesn't pass Congress, Americans will be hit with a 68% tax increase. Fox News' Chad Pergram on where that measure stands as the Senate remained in session overnight. This was before he went home to get a little bit of shut-eye.
Now, the key amendment here might be from Rick Scott, Republican of Florida. That's on the percentage of Medicaid costs for states. And if that's adopted, then that could be a win for conservatives. They've already rejected 2 amendments to remove illegal immigrants from Medicaid. And also, a deal was in the works on limiting the 10-year moratorium for AI regulations for state and local governments. And that's been blown up, and that could be a problem.
Now, among the provisions that Republicans are in favor of, a $350 billion infusion for border and national security, and that includes deportations, rules that make signing up for Medicaid and for food stamps a little more rigorous, and an end to some green energy tax credits. Well, here in Nashville, a 3-year-old child clinging to life after getting hold of a gun inside the family's home in the Nations and getting shot in the head. Channel 4's Alexandria Adams.
The child's mother saying that she was asleep after getting home from work and heard a loud bang, and that's what woke her up. Metro Police telling us the child had surgery, but they are not sure if the boy will survive.
Now, the Youth Services Division will review the case and determine if any charges will be filed. About 1.5 million Tennesseans are expected to hit the road for the 4th of July holiday. So the Tennessee Department of Transportation says it'll suspend construction-related lane closures on interstates and state routes. That suspension takes place from noon on July 3rd, that's Thursday, through 6 a.m. on July 7th. That is the latest news. We've got weather up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's 38 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, hour number one of the Chris Hand Show. I am not Chris Hand. I am Brian Wilson. I think we'll have the way it works today, I think. I'll be in, and then Chris Hand will be in, and then Chad Benson will be in. Matt Murphy still recuperating, and I think it would be fun to have Matt on Percocet do his show. I think that would be just. I mean, I would tune in for that. You would be completely unpredictable.
Oh, I'm 100% here for it. It would definitely make it for a interesting spectacle.
Yeah,
for sure.
but I don't know that that's going to happen. So there you have it. We're watching very closely to see exactly what's going to happen with the big beautiful bill. It is stuck in the Senate. Let me just double check. That is the floor of the Senate right now. Nothing going on. Just nothing.
I've been watching on C-SPAN.
Like watching paint dry.
Right. And what I've been told or what I've heard is that there has been action that's taking place away from the cameras.
Well, if you look at the Senate, the head-on shot, to the left of the dais is a complex that goes back to John Thune's office.
Okay.
And so if you see I've seen a lot of people going in and out of that door headed, look like they might be going back and forth to Thune's office. But I mean, I think there probably are just off the floor. I think there are some pretty serious negotiations going on. But at the if they had the votes, they'd be voting.
Right.
They
Exactly.
don't have the votes, or they would be voting. That's what you need to understand. I mean, there's a couple of more things I think that they have to go through, but they would be moving along toward a final resolution in the Senate if they had the votes, and they don't. The outstanding, players seem to be Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski. Let's see, who else?
Rand Paul. And Tom Tillis.
Tom Tillis has been very clear that he's going to vote the way he wants to vote because he doesn't care. He announced that he's not running for re-election. So, there's nothing they can really hold against him. He can do exactly what he wants to do, and he seems to be dead set against it. So unless you can turn some of these votes and get them on board, you don't have the 50 votes you need. And even at 50 votes, the vice president has to come in and break the tie.
And he's there, by the way, on Capitol Hill.
He'd be in the building. I'm looking right now. That door keeps opening. And I don't know. Just seems like a bunch of staff movement. I see a few senators on the floor, but not many. There is a pickup in activity, so maybe something is underway. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm just going to keep that up in the background so when they start talking, we'll hear it. How's that?
Perfect.
That's what I'll do. In the meantime, let me talk a little bit about what's going to happen on another story today. President headed down to the Alligator Alcatraz is what it's called. It's basically a landing strip about 45 miles west of Miami, in the middle of nowhere, out there in the swampland. I mean, that's the swampiest of the Florida swamplands. It is a place where you would have alligators and you would have pythons, which are not indigenous to Florida, but there's a bunch of them out there, and all kinds of snakes and all kinds of gators, and just inhospitable mosquitoes, a lot of mosquitoes. And that's where they're going to put up a temporary thing to process people who are in this country illegally before they get sent to another country. And so that's going on right now. The president's on his way down there. And then when that happens, we'll probably take a little bit of that live as he does a tour of this particular facility that has been put up. It's temporary. Well, I mean, the landing strip is permanent, but I mean, the rest of the stuff that's been put down there is temporary, and it's designed to really help out with the handling of illegal aliens who are in this country and are in the process of being deported. So we'll see how that all goes today. Pam Bondi is not very happy about what CNN has done. CNN ran a story about an app that would give warning to people who, about where the ICE, agents are so that they can avoid being arrested. And, CNN, it seemed like what they were trying to do was promote it. It's to thwart the administration, which is not at all the job of the news business, but that seems to be what they were doing. Pam Bondi, not at all happy.
Obviously, our ICE agents, all of our federal agents who are working hand in hand on these task forces, our federal agents from the Justice Department could be injured. He's giving a message to criminals where our federal officers are, and he cannot do that. And we are looking at it. We are looking at him, and he better watch out, because that's not a protected speech. That is threatening the lives of our law enforcement officers throughout this country. And shame on CNN. I just saw that for the first time when you showed it, that they're promoting that app. That's shame on them for doing that. That could hurt our law enforcement officers who are out there protecting them, protecting all of us every single day. We're finding you. People don't think that we can find you. We are finding you. We've made that abundantly evident by the cases that we're making. No longer will crime be rampant in our country, and we will protect the great men and women in law enforcement. I feel like, Sean, what has happened to this country where our police officers are out there every day? There's no ordinary day in the life of a police officer. They're out there protecting all of us every day. They're protecting CNN. They're protecting everyone. Yet these people are so against law enforcement officers, whether you're a candidate for mayor in New York City or you're some network of promoting an app. You're warning people about that app and not to use it. And
well, that's not good. That's not good. She's pretty wound up. By the way, is anybody as impressed with Pam Bondi as Attorney General as I am? I think she's doing a great job. Phenomenal job. I look around and I see a lot of real talent in this Trump administration. Marco Rubio. Can I just share something with very quickly about Marco Rubio? RFK Jr. is talking to Tucker Carlson and let it leak out that the funniest person on the entire cabinet is Marco Rubio. Joan, I mean, you've seen Marco Rubio. I find him to be rather humorless when I see him, in his official capacity as a senator. I don't think he has much of a sense of humor, but that's not what we're hearing.
That's, well, I don't think he should have a sense of humor in his position. And by the way, the guy has taken on so many jobs that he might be a little tired.
Yeah, listen to what RFK Jr. said.
Okay.
I've got it right here. Hang on. Boom.
Funniest guy in the cabinet.
Start again.
Marco Rubio is the funniest guy in the cabinet. He says things that make people belly laugh at every cabinet meeting. I never was very, let's say, approving of Marco because he was kind of a neocon war hawk, but now he's had this incredible transformation, and I think he I think he's very aligned with me on most issues, on Ukraine, and just the fact that we should not be the policemen of the world anymore, that we've got to withdraw from that.
So he's talking a little bit about how he's become less neocon, but it's that first part that just amazes me.
Marco Rubio is the funniest guy in the cabinet.
But in a million years, I would have never guessed that Marco Rubio is like a laugh riot. He seems to be the singularly most somber and serious individual I've ever met. And I guess when you're out there, on official duty, you got to project that. But I didn't know the guy had it in him. I think that's interesting. Anyway, getting back to the stuff going on with regard to immigration. Air Force to manage a new militarized zone along the U.S.-Mexico border. How about this? U.S. Air Force is slated to manage a new militarized border zone in Texas along the Rio Grande. Stretch of land known as the National Defense Area spans 250 miles of the Rio Grande River through Hidalgo and Cameron counties and will be administered as an extension of Joint Base and San Antonio. The National Defense Area, known as an NDA, it's a different kind of NDA than I'm familiar with. The NDA is the third established by the Defense Department along the southern border, with the first being sited in New Mexico on April 21st and the second in West Texas on May 1st. Secretary of Air Force, the commander of the U.S. Northern Command, will collaborate closely to manage the area. The idea here is to make sure that they are watching more closely what is happening along the border. This month, a law enforcement operation in Cameron County, Texas, near the location of the new NDA, resulted in the seizure of over 100 pounds of marijuana in an area described as a hotspot of drug trafficking under the influence of the Gulf Cartel. Another recent interdiction, smugglers from Mexico were foiled in an attempt to drive bundles of illicit drug products across the Rio Grande River into South Texas. Be manned by personnel serving in Joint Task Force Southern Border, who will monitor the area, install barriers and signage, conduct patrols, and stop any trespassers. The military duty will be to detain trespassers only temporarily and then transfer them into the custody of law enforcement authorities who can carry it on from there. That's going on. It is really amazing how much comes across the border. Now, I think they've gotten better at detecting this stuff, but even when I was a young reporter in West Texas, in Odessa, I remember going out one time because there was a Lockheed Lodestar, an old prop plane from the war, Second World War, that had made some kind of emergency ditching out in the middle of the desert, out near a little town called Wink, and I ended up going out there to cover it, and it was this packed full of marijuana. Apparently, it was so full of marijuana and not near enough gasoline because they ran out of gas and had to ditch out in the desert. But this stuff goes on all the time. You would not believe how much stuff comes across. So I'm glad to see the military actively involved in some of all that. It's 50 minutes now past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Well, it appears the vibe has shifted. What has just happened that's breathing some new life into the big, beautiful bill in the Senate. We've got that coming up here at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I will say that the president of the United States has arrived down in Florida to go to the Alligator Alcatraz and take a tour. And in the last few moments, his comments about what's happening in Washington seemed a bit more upbeat. In fact, they're still playing out his rival comments. Let's listen in just a bit
We
here.
have to look, Ron, they include anybody that happens to be in your state.
Well, California.
That's Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, with him.
Seats if they did a fair census. And even beyond that, the Biden census gypped Florida of at least one seat. We only got one seat in the last census. Are you trying to tell me that Florida only had one seat in that? We should have had at least two. Texas should have had another one. That could be the difference in the House of Representatives and the majority. So I would love for them to redo the census for 26. My legislature will redistrict those lines. We'll get it to where it's fair. But as it's right now, this country is not fairly apportioned. I've got so many more millions of people in Florida that have representation because of that flawed census.
Mr. President, I think it's going to do very well. A lot of people, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's captivated the country. Everybody wants it. It's going to get in, it's going to pass, and we're going to be very happy.
Elon Musk is ripping into this bill again. Are you concerned that Republicans are going to be swayed by Musk and his money?
No, I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is Doge is going to look at Musk. And if Doge looks at Musk, we're going to save a fortune. Thank you very much, everybody. I don't think you should be playing that game with me.
Mr. President,
All right, so there you have the president of the United States arriving. I said he seems to think it's going to pass. So that would be a big deal. That's right. Couple of other things, as long as we're talking about immigration, as we are right now. Couple of local stories. Esteban Taperia, on Monday, subject to a detainer from U.S. Immigrations and Custom Enforcement in the Nashville area, after he reportedly brought a 13-year-old girl from Guatemala to a Nashville hospital where he allegedly admitted to fathering the child and said he intended to raise the infant. This, according to the Tennessee Star, the Davidson County Sheriff's Office data confirm that Taparia, age 21, has since been charged with 8 counts of felony statutory rape, and that the jail was requested to hold Taparia for transfer to ICE custody. Davidson County Criminal Court records reveal General Sessions Judge Allegra Walker assigned a $15,000 bond for each of the charges levied against Taparia, which together will require him to pay $120,000 to be released on pending trial. According to WSMV, the crimes were discovered after he transported the 13-year-old victim to the Tennessee Fetal and Medical Center in Nashville, where the outlet reported he identified himself as her intimate partner. It is 59 minutes now past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. So many balls in the air today right now trying to see if we can get this big, beautiful bill passed. It's nip and tuck. Could go either way. We'll stay on it. In the meantime, it's time for the news with Joan Jones at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 10 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. For drivers, want to let you know that there is a crash on 840 westbound just before I-65 exit 31. The right lane is blocked off there. You've got stop-and-go traffic leading up to that spot there in Franklin. Also, Hendersonville, it's construction work on Vietnam Veterans Boulevard before Gallatin Pike, and it's very slow in that area as well. The big news right now, it appears that Republicans have caught the break that they needed to get the big, beautiful bill over the line in the Senate. Here's Fox News reporter Aisha Hasney.
Senator Mark Wayne Mullen just told us that The GOP has the votes now to pass the big, beautiful bill, and that is with Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski. That just changed in the last couple of minutes here. Mullen tells us that the GOP actually already has the bill text ready to go. They're just waiting on the Democrats to finish huddling. The Democrats might put forward a couple more amendments, and then the Senate Republicans will put forward a wraparound amendment to clean this all up, and then it will go to final passage.
And she reports that vote could come before noon. We'll still keep an eye on it this morning. A woman who led police on a pursuit through Nashville for hours this morning is behind bars. This all started while most of us were sleeping, according to News 2's Peyton Kennedy.
It all started around 3 a.m. in the Old Hickory area when they saw a woman asleep in a car. They ran the tag on that car, and it turns out that it was reported stolen. When they tried to approach the woman, they say that she drove into their vehicles and attempted to run them over as well before taking off in that vehicle.
And eventually police threw down spike strips, but the woman continued driving on bare rims. It was a slow pursuit. Around 7 o'clock this morning, they were able to push her vehicle to the shoulder on I-24, the westbound lanes near mile marker 54. That's where she was arrested. A federal magistrate is holding Kilmar Abrego Garcia in jail until at least mid-July, agreeing yesterday with...
How can we do...
agree.
I apologize.
That's okay. A federal magistrate is holding Kilmar Abrego Garcia in jail until at least mid-July, agreeing yesterday with his lawyers that should he be released before his trial, the El Salvadoran man would only be deported. Abrego Garcia was indicted by a federal grand jury on 2 charges of human smuggling in late May. He has pleaded not guilty. The WNBA adding 3 expansion cities, but Nashville is not one of them. Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia are the 3 winning cities. But the New York Post is reporting that the WNBA lost $40 million last year. And the cause of a massive fire at a downtown parking garage in early June remains a mystery. The Nashville Fire Department wrapped up the initial phase of that investigation, and they say they only have a suspected cause. They're considering 3 primary theories: an electrical failure, arson, and weather, but arson and weather have now been ruled out. That is the latest news. We've got your weather ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, it is 6 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock. I apologize to Joan Jones for that rude interruption.
Oh, that's okay.
I didn't know my mic was up. Sorry.
So many moving parts here today.
Yeah, there's a lot of buttons here. And, every once in a while the blinky buttons get in the wrong position. That's what happened there. I apologize. But it does sound like things are happening and that Lisa Murkowski is on board now. What they have to give her is the question.
Right.
But I'm watching the floor of the Senate, and it does appear that there's a bit more activity. Let's see if we can listen in here.
Tariff you.
Yeah, no, there's nothing much going on there. It's just quiet. But if they have a deal, then they can move forward here, and that sounds like what has happened. The other thing there, can you hear it in the background? It's just like you can hear the air conditioner running.
You need that today.
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, we'll continue to watch what's happening on the floor of the Senate. Good news there. I will say that Trump, when he arrived in Florida, seemed to be very optimistic that things were moving. So when he left the White House, he didn't seem quite that optimistic. When he arrived in Florida on Air Force One, he seemed a lot more optimistic. So it sounds like something has broken in that direction. All you need 50 votes, and the vice president will come in and break it. So it looks like if Lisa Murkowski's on board, they've got probably the 50 votes they need. Who knows? It could go either way. But I have a feeling that they're going to do everything they can to make sure that they get this right. Now, there's been another kerfuffle between the president of the United States and Elon Musk over this bill. Musk has called it a porky pig bill. I think I'm paraphrasing that, but that's pretty much what he called it, a pork bill. And he says what we probably need to do is set up another political party because the Republicans, he says, are no longer serious about cutting spending the way he would cut spending. And so he's not happy. And he says what we need to do is perhaps start a third party. And so, I know that, for some people out there, they want the big, beautiful bill. I want the big, beautiful bill. I'm in favor of the big, beautiful bill. I've covered that institution a long time, and I can tell you it's hard to get big stuff across the goal line, and this is not unusual, but there are always those who want more, and I can't say that I wouldn't like to see more, but I take what I get. I'm sort of a pragmatist in that regard, but there are people out there who want to see more. And so, if Elon Musk is saying, let's have another political party and we'll get serious about cutting spending, my question is, would you be in favor? Would you follow Elon Musk into that new third party? 615-737-9986. That's the goal. Give us a call right now and let us know what you think about all this. Would you follow Elon Musk into this new party? Are you dissatisfied with the level of cuts? Or do you stick with Trump and the big, beautiful bill? And even though taking into consideration those who say it will not do everything that they hoped that it would do, 615-737-9986. Mason, when you get some calls all scheduled in there, let me know what we got.
I'll keep you updated, sir.
And we'll get on that right away. So there's that. I mean, it's interesting. Would you follow him? I mean, look, I look at what's happening and having been through a lot of these vote-a-ramas before and these all-night events. Usually they happen right around Christmas. But, I mean, right now they're trying to get it passed before everybody takes off for the 4th of July. It's got to get out of the Senate today to get over to the House. And then there's a whole other question about whether it can pass the House. But I understand all that, and I understand that I believe, and I've always believed, we should not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Is it perfect? No. Is any piece of legislation perfect? Never one that I've ever seen, and you talk to any member of the House or Senate, and they'll tell you the same thing, that, there's always, with every bill, there's some element to it, they have to hold their nose to cast the vote. So I look at this and I say, I'm on board with this. I think that Trump is winning. Would I like to see some bigger cuts? Yeah, but not enough that I'm ready to break up the Republican Party and start a third party. 615-737-9986. You got any thoughts? Would you follow Elon Musk into the thing? Have we got anybody lined up there? I can't see my screen today. I'm sorry.
You're good if you want to take line one with Jonathan.
Line one, Jonathan. Thank you for that. Line one, Jonathan, you're up with Brian on the Chris Hand Show. The gun number again, 615-737-9986. Okay, so would you follow Elon Musk into a third party? Is that something that interests you? Or are you satisfied with what's happening in the Republican Party with the big, beautiful bill?
Well, hi, good morning. Yes, I did vote for Trump. To be honest with you, I'm a little bit younger, but I do find it to be concerning with the big, beautiful bill because I talking to parents, we just went back from a beach trip, just talking to them, at the dinner tables, for 7 days straight. I can tell that a lot of people within the Republican Party seem to just be following blindly. And I feel like what Musk is trying to say is, hey, look, there's some things in this bill that we're seeing, and it is a pretty big bill. If you really get into the weeds of it, a lot of us that are concerned, I think, are more concerned along the lines of Medicaid and Medicare and that pulling back. And I think a lot of people are just following blindly and not getting into the root of maybe what we're needing to do to, I 100% believe that we need to get a bigger border, get a better border, and get funding for police and get funding for the military, But there's just a lot of things. I think there's this blind, sheepish follow, and I think that Musk he's all in. I think he loves Trump. I really do think that he wants to follow Trump. But I think there's this blindness that he's seen within the parties and even within the Democrats. Of course, it's just one side to the other side. And I think there needs to be, I'm not hoping for a Ross Perot style party by any stretch, but something of that where, coming from a younger cat, I just feel like there's this blindness. Because, like my parents were talking to me like, oh, yeah, there was an accident that had occurred to one of my relatives while they were overseas in Italy. And the insurance was free. And I said, well, how what did you think about that? And there's things where, I'm not saying that we need to have universal health care coverage. I don't believe it. But I think that I'm a little concerned that there's just this blindness. And I'd love to hear what you have to say on that.
Well, I'd love to hear what some other people have to say. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. We got another call we can take there, Mason. Hello, Mason.
Go ahead and take line two, Brian.
Line two. Who's standing by on line two? I'm sorry I can't see my screen today. Line two, who we got there?
This is Josh.
Hey, Josh, you're on with Brian, filling in for Chris Hand. So would you follow Elon Musk into this third party that he seems to be talking about, or do you want to stick with Trump?
Man, I don't think so. I think that I would stick with Trump. I think that there's things that Elon lacks. I think there's some of the compassion side, and he's more robotic, where I just think that Trump is the guy that we all wanted. Even Elon wanted him, and they have a little scuffle, a little tiff between themselves, and now all of a sudden he wants to go a different route. Rome was not built overnight, right? So they've made a lot of changes, and I think the big, beautiful bill, if you trust the president that we put in place, and he's had a proven track record. I mean, these bills go through, it don't get only what you want. You have to make concessions, and I'm trusting him to make the proper concessions. So no, I don't think I would follow Elon in that.
Well, I think you make a good point there. Elon is just a different animal. He really is. And I like Elon, and I think we need people like Elon Musk and to think outside the box and to do things differently. I think that's definitely what you want. But I think when it comes to building rocket ships, thinking outside the box is good. When it comes to building electric cars, thinking outside the box is good, and it served him well. I'll give him that. It served him very well. But I got to tell you, I don't think that he understands politics to the level that what is politics? The art of the possible, and it seems that it's possible.
Politics is gray.
Yeah, it's
has a gray area. There's not just black and white.
No, it's never black and white. And you have to. You got 100 senators. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. You got 100 senators, and you got 435 members of the House, and each of them believes, when they look at the situation, that they know best. So I don't know. When I look at Elon, I look at a guy who, I think we need to celebrate people like Elon Musk. I think he is a genius of our time. He's the Edison of our time. He's the the Tesla of our time. He really is. And we need people like that, because they're innovators. But in the world of politics, everything depends on what kind of thing you can put together to get the votes. How are you going to get the votes to pass it? And I don't think that in the business world, that he's just not used to compromising. And I think there's always going to be some compromises, that's for sure. Can we go to line 3, maybe? Who's on standing by? Who you got there?
Hey, Larry, you're up with us. What you want to talk about?
Thank you, Larry. You're up with Brian on the drive.
Hey, Brian. Good morning.
What do you think? Would you follow Elon, or would you stick with Trump?
No, listen. We do absolutely need people like Elon, and he has done.
No, I'm losing you there. Try again.
Elon wasn't voted into office by a huge majority.
Yeah.
So, no, I will not. If he tries to do this, he's going to split the Republican Party and guarantee that the darn Democrats win.
Yeah. I think you're right.
No, I will not follow him for that, no.
I would rather watch the Democrats come apart, and it seems like they are. As I look at it, I mean, you've got moderate Democrats, but not many of them, and the people who are really in charge and the key powers of positions of power within the Democrat Party all seem to be very liberal, and so they're trying to push through a lot of things that so let's let the Democrats fall apart. I would rather us stay together, and hopefully Elon can be mollified in some way. I just think Elon has an expectation that government operates like business, and it just doesn't. It's just a different animal completely, and so I'm glad to hear you say that. All right, thanks a lot, appreciate it. So so we're watching very carefully. I'm seeing what happens over here in the big. Well, we have action in the Senate right now. Let's see, just a moment. I have it over here. And I can turn it up a little bit. See what's happening on the floor of the Senate right now.
Fairway, Alaska is one of the states. Maryland's one of the states. Oregon's one of the states. New York's one of the states. Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, Florida, Georgia, Alaska, and D.C. Hardly Republican priorities. And I would do, as Amy said, I would vote what's important to your state. And if you've got a high error rate, this allows you additional time in order to get your house in order so that you will not be penalized. And with that, I ask for a yeas and the nays and encourage a positive vote. A no vote. No. A positive vote, meaning a no vote.
Is there a sufficient second?
That's a good recovery.
There appears to be. There is. The clerk will call the roll.
It's also Brooks.
All right, so apparently things are moving off dead center, and they're trying to get through the last few of amendments. It does appear that something has broken. It sounds like what they have done is they've come up with a compromise that will extend the amount of time for some of these Medicare changes so that states can have time to prepare for it. So I don't know. We'll continue to listen in very carefully, but they're now moving again on the vote-a-rama. Something has happened. It sounds to me like Lisa Murkowski has been mollified in some way, and that we are now moving forward. I'll try to get a better sense of what's happening in the next few minutes. Right now, 20 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We are still tracking President Trump's big, beautiful bill in the Senate, but it does appear that a vote will be taking place very soon on that bill. We'll bring you the latest here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, I have some of the details on that. I hope you don't mind, because this is the big story of the day. What's going on with the big, beautiful bill? Sounds like we have a deal to get it out of the Senate. That's the way it looks right now. I'm reading from thehill.com. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican, South Dakota, told reporters Tuesday morning that he thinks a deal with Senator Lisa Murkowski to pass President Trump's tax and spending mega bill. He said the guy thinks he has a deal, but he's a realist, he says, and he's not counting anything as finished until the final vote is cast. Asked if he had a deal as he walked from the Senate floor to his office, Thune said, "I believe we do. But like I said, I'm of Scandinavian heritage, so I'm always a bit of a realist. We'll see what happens." Thune's body language appeared significantly more relaxed after he and Murkowski reviewed a sheet of legislative text on the Senate floor, while Senate Finance Committee Chair Mike Crapo and Budget Committee Chair Lindsey Graham hovered nearby. Thune was spotted alongside Murkowski pouring over the document at a desk near the back wall of the Senate chamber shortly after 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesday. A person familiar with the floor conversation said the Senate parliamentarian, this is important, had approved revised language to soften the impact of Medicaid cuts and food assistance cuts on Alaska. Robert Duncan, Secretary of the Majority, Republican Majority, and Gary Myrick, the Secretary of the Democrat Conference, responded in discussion with the parliamentarian at the Senate dais a short time later. So, this was the big hang-up. The deal with Murkowski breaks a deadlock that lasted throughout Monday night into Tuesday morning. Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough threw a wrench into those plans by ruling the initial Medicaid and SNAP provisions designed to help Alaska didn't comply with something known as the Byrd Rule, and therefore wasn't eligible to pass the Senate with a simple majority vote. The Byrd Rule. It's a hard thing to understand. But if you can do things through the reconciliation process, you only need a majority vote. Otherwise, difficult things in the Senate take 60 votes. If you want to, make sure that you don't get bogged down in some kind of, filibuster, you have to have 60 votes. But if you do it through this whole budget reconciliation process, you just need 51 votes. And they have them now. It would appear Murkowski's on board. So this would seem that in the Senate, we'll see this matter come to a close sometime today, maybe by the time the morning is over. And then it goes back to the House, and there we have a whole different, sticky wicket. That's, if you want to know why they sent Chad Pergram home to get a nap, because he's got to deal with the House this afternoon, probably. So there's all that going on. Been in a extended quorum call until from 7:30 this morning until just a short time ago, when movement on the Senate floor began. Just once again to recap, it appears that Lisa Murkowski and Thune have come to an agreement, and it looks like the big, beautiful bill will go forward and pass the Senate in some form. It has changed, and under this reconciliation process, it has to go back to the House, and the House has to accept the Senate changes. Now, that may not be all that easy, because there are going to be some members of the House, and remember, margins are very tight there as well. There are going to be some members of the House who are not going to like what the Senate did. But this is the way the process works. I have a feeling that if you get President Trump on the line calling some of these recalcitrant House members, that things will snap into place in pretty good shape. Honestly, when you tell Republicans that if you vote against this, you are voting for a 68% increase in taxes for most people, that ought to be enough right there. Nobody wants to see taxes go up. And so a lot of this is grab while you can. And there's an old saying on Capitol Hill that this is the train leaving the station. If you want something, you better get on board this train. And if you know that the train's going to leave and you know that the measure is a must pass, you try to get your measure in there as best you can. So there's a lot of that going on. And that's the thing that irritates so many people, is the wheeling and dealing. But this is what it takes to get something across the line. It's the art of the possible. And is it perfect? A perfect process? No. It's in fact quite the imperfect process, but here we go. We'll be honest, and we're watching it very closely right now, 10:30, time for the news on Super Talk 99.7.
Good morning. It's now 10:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Republicans appear to have the votes needed to get President Trump's big, beautiful bill passed in the Senate with a deal that was struck with Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski. But what that deal is not clear yet. Now, Aisha Hasni at Fox News picks up from there. What will happen?
We expect that Democrats will begin offering up amendments, likely to strip out whatever Senator Lisa Murkowski just got for Alaska in order to gain her vote. Then Senate Republicans will offer a wraparound amendment to clean everything up, and then we will see final passage. It takes about 20 minutes or so per vote, so final passage will be coming here shortly.
Now, the Vice President J.D. Vance's vote will be needed here to break a tie, and then that bill will head back to the House to be squared up with the Senate version. Here in Nashville, a 3-year-old child is clinging to life after getting hold of a gun inside the family's home in the Nations and getting shot in the head. Channel 4's Alexandria Adams.
The child's mother saying that she was asleep after getting home from work and heard a loud bang, and that's what woke her up. Metro Police telling us the child had surgery, but they are not sure if the boy will survive.
MNPD saying that Youth Services Division will review the case and determine if any charges will be filed. A state park ranger found the body of a man washed up on the shore at Percy Priest Lake yesterday, now identified as the body of that of 27-year-old Willie Fernando Godoy, who went missing last Wednesday. At that time, his truck and belongings were found right in the same area where his body was discovered yesterday. Officials say they saw no signs of foul play. And we're just learning that televangelist Jimmy Swaggart has passed away. He suffered a cardiac arrest on June 15th. He had been in a coma since then, but we are learning this morning that he has passed away. He was 90 years old. That is the latest news. Weather is up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
It is 37 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, halfway through the Chris Hand program. I'm Brian Wilson filling in for Chris Hand. He'll be in for Chad Pergram, and Chad Pergram will be in for Matt. Yes, it's musical chairs here at Super Talk 99.7. Glad to be in here today. By the way, Matt doing well. The word I'm getting is that, the wives talk, and he's doing great. It's a very painful thing to go through what he has gone through, and he needed a couple more days. I think he'll be back after the 4th. That's the way it stands right now. So, just hang in there, and things will return to normal soon. We are watching the floor of the United States Senate. Let me just turn this up.
They didn't have a bed for him, so
here's Lindsey Graham. He's up there talking now about the big, beautiful bill. Let's listen to just a little bit of this.
Expired. This bill fixes that and a bunch of other stuff.
We get there just as the time expired. Yeah, so apparently, here's the deal. There has been a breakthrough, and it appears
Question
that...
first on Amendment 2848.
It would appear that the United States Senate will pass the big, beautiful bill here shortly.
Second? There is. The clerk will call the roll.
All right, so we're in a roll call vote here for another measure. And so there you have it. Things are moving. There was a hang-up with Lisa Murkowski. Some kind of deal has been struck. It sounds as if that they're going to be able to move forward and pass the big, beautiful bill and send it over to the House. And this would keep it on track to get it to the president's desk if things go well in the House of Representatives by the 4th of July. He really wants to do it by the 4th of July. That would be a great thing. You have to do the difficult stuff of the presidency. If you have big plans and you need to get something pushed through Capitol Hill, really, honestly, I hate to say it, but the most effective time you have are the first 6 months in office. Because, I'm not making this up. By the time we get back from the 4th of July, you'll already start to be talking about the midterm elections, and then it gets complicated. Very, very complicated about getting votes because everything becomes immensely more political. So the fact that John Thune, Lisa Murkowski have come up with some kind of deal that allows Republicans to get to 50 votes, the vice president will come in and he will cast the breaking tie. He's not in the chair as yet, so we still are not at that point yet, but it sounds like a deal has been done, and everybody seems to be making positive noises. Now, you never know until the votes are counted. You can find that there's a problem at the last minute, but it sounds like to me that this matter is about over in the House, in the Senate, and now goes to the House of Representatives. We'll watch that. By the way, looking at the calendar, what is today? Today is the first day of July. This is the beginning of the second half of the calendar year. That's right. The second half starts today. And in the state of Tennessee, there are a great number of laws that have taken effective today. In other words, yesterday, these weren't the law of the state of Tennessee. Today, they are. And you might want to know about some of these things. I've got several stories here that talk about it. For people who have, folks who have kids in school, here's what you need to know about the new cell phone ban that hits classrooms this year. New law, according to WSMV, set to take effect in Tennessee, tackling an obstacle surrounding cell phones in schools. Focuses on cell phone usage during school instruction, requiring school districts across the state to create a policy that reflects certain requirements under state law. Each school system is required to have a new policy compliant with state law by the time the school year starts. The studies show that teachers throughout the country have reported cell phone usage as a problem in their classroom. So the new law, the requirements of the new law in the state of Tennessee are: cell phones must be banned during instructional time unless authorized by the teacher. It allows for cell phone usage for students with learning disabilities or medical needs. Allows for the use of a cell phone in an emergency situation. Creates a system for parents and guardians to be notified of an emergency situation if cell phones are not already in students' hands, not readily in student hands. It allows for some flexibility, giving each school system an opportunity to fine-tune the policy to their liking. Some school districts, like Williamson County, allow high schoolers to use their cell phones during lunch. You know, I have mixed emotions about this. I do understand that it's becoming a distraction. And with AI, I don't want AI answers for my kids. I want my kids to learn what it is they should be learning, not relying upon AI to give them the answers to everything. As I heard one young student say that the other day, that AI has dramatically changed what's happening in his school with regard to teaching of math. He said AI does the math, and a lot of kids are cheating, and they're not really learning. But then I'm wondering, does that matter? Because I'm telling you, we're going to look at AI in the same way that we look at calculators now. AI will just do the hard math for us. But one way or the other, it is happening, and so there's that. And I like the idea that there's a system in place that would allow parents and guardians to be notified. But as a parent, a former parent of a teenager in high school, I love the fact that I could reach my daughter if I needed to reach my daughter. So during the school day, that apparently will be more difficult. Although high schoolers in Williamson County can check their phones during the lunch hour. The bill allowed for additional flexibility, giving each school system an opportunity to fine-tune the policy to their liking. There you go. So we have that. Other laws. Good Samaritan Law expansion. House Bill 995 extends the immunity provisions for persons seeking medical care for themselves or others in the event of a suspected alcohol overdose. Law was inspired by a constituent who lost her 18-year-old brother to an alcohol overdose at a party. According to House Republicans, the teen's friends were afraid they would get into legal trouble if they called for help since they were under legal drinking age. Online boating license exam, there's one for you, allows Tennessee citizens to take their boating safety exam online by eliminating the current monitoring requirement. Previously, citizens were required to take the exam in person under the supervisor of a proctor, a boat proctor. Some of the new laws allow online testing access in rural areas, also provide working individuals with a flexible solution if they work during standard business hours. Regulating lab-grown meat, increased penalties for exposing children to fentanyl, hemp-derived products. Two laws passed by Republicans, House Bill 72 and 751, aim to protect children from exposure to substances like fentanyl or hemp-derived products. A minimum sentence of 48 consecutive hours in a county jail or workhouse and a fine workhouse or a fine of at least $500 for people convicted of selling or distributing products like THC gummies to people under the age of 21. Got that? That's not going to be allowed. Not going to be allowed. Let's see. What is it? Oh, here you go. Hamilton County Representative Greg Martin passed House Bill 302, which makes it a Class C misdemeanor to park, stop, or leave a vehicle in a way that impedes traffic. The penalty increases to a Class B misdemeanor if the action contributes to an accident. State Representative Jody Barrett attempted to make the act of blocking a highway during a protest a felony in February of 2024, but the measure did not pass. Oh, let's see what else. Accepting digital this is a good one. Accepting digital copies of vehicle registration, passed by Memphis State Representative Karen Camper. The bill codifies the Law Enforcement Safer Tennessee Electronics Registration Act, clarifies that law enforcement is required to accept a digital copy of vehicle registration as a valid proof of insurance. Tennessee also allows for digital copies for proof of insurance. Fighting AI-generated deep fakes, that's part of a law in the state of Tennessee. So there you have it. All kinds of things. 177 new laws basically go into effect starting today. Here's one: harboring illegal immigrants, likely the most controversial new law, and this is the first makes it a felony to transport or conceal an illegal immigrant from law enforcement. There is worry from the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, those folks, that this could negatively impact families and nonprofits. But the law only applies if an individual or group makes money off harboring illegal immigrants. There is a lawsuit that is pending to try to block the implementation of this new law, but it is in place as we speak. New penalties for threats of mass violence. Dedicated funding for TDOT, digital vehicle registration, talked about that. Laser pointers. Here's one. A new law criminalizes pointing a laser pointer at a car, boat, or aircraft. Under a previous law, this was only criminalized if the laser was pointed at law enforcement or emergency personnel, for example, in helicopters. But now, if you point a laser at another car or a boat or an aircraft, you could find yourself in real trouble with the law. So a whole host of things going into play. You can find these, by the way, News Channel 5, WKRN, Fox 17. They all have stories if you want to get into more details about some of the new laws that have gone into a place. You can go there and read them. You don't want to be caught. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, by the way. So if you say, well, I didn't know about the new law, doesn't matter. It's the law. And that's why you need to read these stories if you're interested in being in compliance with the law, right? All right. So there you go. It is 49 minutes now past the hour. Just a recap of where we are. The President of the United States is now down at Alligator Alcatraz. He's actually speaking. Let's listen in for just a brief hair.
Massive crime, crippling costs, and burdens far beyond what any nation could withstand. No nation could withstand what we did, and we're in the process of doing it, but we have some great people doing it now, and you see them up here with me. But it's, I'd call it like an unforced era. It's sort of like men and women sports. It's sort of like transgender for everybody. How could they have done this to our country? And we're never going to forget it. Last year, 15% of all the hotel rooms in New York City were used to house illegal aliens at costs that they never got for luxury. They never got this much for luxury people coming in from the wealthiest places on earth. They made more money with the illegal immigrants.
All right, we're watching what's going on in Florida. We're watching what's happening on the Senate floor. The Vice President has taken the chair in the Senate chambers, which means we are getting close to final passage of the big, beautiful bill in the Senate. A lot going on right now, 50 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock.
One of the first preachers to bring his ministry to a massive television audience has passed away. President Trump visiting Alligator Alcatraz. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is with him. He says every state needs one of these. And 2 Chinese nationals face serious charges. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You ever been down to that part of Florida?
I never have, man.
Yeah, I'd say this is due west of Miami, about 45 miles out in the middle of the Okeechobee Swamp.
Yeah.
And Lake Okeechobee is
Lake
there,
Okeechobee.
And not far. And there's basically what you have there is a big landing strip. And I don't know why they built a landing strip out in the middle of nowhere, but there was this huge landing strip out there,
yeah.
And there was nothing else there. And so now they decided they can use this to get an actual vote. I mean, to actually handle
on this
some
vote,
of these.
The yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the amendment, as amended, is agreed to.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was watching the Senate as well. That's where
now the clerk will read the title of the bill for the third time.
Calendar number 1.
Here we go. This, I think, is the final vote on the big, beautiful bill in the House. So we got 2 things going on. The president's down there at Alcatraz, Alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah.
And then we're getting the final vote now in the Senate to pass the big, beautiful bill. So a lot going on.
On passage of the bill as amended. Is there a sufficient second? There is. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsor-Brooks. Who said no? Ms. Baldwin.
All right, so now the voting, as far as I can tell, this is the final vote
Mr. Barrasso.
in the Senate on the
Mr.
big,
Bennett.
beautiful bill. A deal has been struck with Lisa Murkowski. They are moving forward, and the vote will take place.
Mr. Blumenthal.
So by the time we get to the newscast here in just a few minutes, we should have the final measure passed.
Yeah.
And this will be, boy,
Mr.
big victory for the Trump administration.
How many
Mr.
deals
Bud.
do you think Lisa Murkowski has made over the years to get her vote, Brian?
I don't know. I mean, look at one of the things that I heard about Washington some time ago was it's the people in the middle who have the most power.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, when you look at in the Supreme Court, it's the people in the middle who cut the deals that have the real power in the Supreme Court.
Right.
Same is true in the United States Senate. If you're in the middle and they need you, sometimes you go one way, sometimes you go to the other. You can get an awful lot of what you want if you're in the middle.
Right.
If you're out there on one side or the other, it's a little more difficult for them to force something, to negotiate. But when you're in the middle, they got to, and you have this thing where sometimes you're going to be there for them and sometimes you're not.
Right.
You have the ability to really work the system, and that seems to be, what Lisa Murkowski's been pretty good at over the years.
Yeah, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski.
Mr. Durbin.
And, there you go. You got Collins, Murkowski, and Rand Paul,
Ms.
and then also Tom Tillis. So
Yeah.
it'll be a 50-50 vote. And as I said, the vice president is in the chair.
Yeah.
And he will break this. So
Gallego.
why don't we head to news a little early? Is that okay with you?
That's fine by me, Brother
Let's
Brian.
go to news a little early so we can get on the other side to report, the final vote here in just a moment.
Graham.
It is 58 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock.
Mr. Grassley. Mr. Haggerty.
It's 11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. As you just heard, Brother Brian talking about, Senate is voting on the big, beautiful bill. This is the full Senate vote, which, if passed, will go back to the House. We understand that Vice President J.D. Vance is there for the tiebreaker. So it looks like this thing is going to pass and will be going back to the House. And we will definitely have more on that for you coming up after the weather. Meanwhile, speaking of the weather, we've got that full forecast for you in 5 minutes. Televangelist Jimmy Swaggart has passed away. This was on his Facebook page. He met his beloved Savior and entered the portals of glory. Swaggart, one of the first preachers to bring his ministry to a massive television audience, died in Louisiana after being hospitalized for 2 weeks. He was 90. President Trump, while the Senate is voting on his big, beautiful bill, is visiting a migrant detention facility in the Florida Everglades, today nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz, on a tour of the site with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who encouraged other states to build detention sites.
Don't let Florida be the only state. We've got very red states that should be doing this just as much as Florida's doing. That will increase their numbers. And then what happens is you'll have a lot of people that will deport on their own because they don't want to end up in an Alligator Alcatraz or some of those other places. So I think this is a model, but we need other states to step up.
Yeah, the site has been the subject of protests by local tribal communities, environmental groups, and immigration advocates. 2 Chinese nationals face serious charges after they allegedly acted as agents of the People's Republic of China's communist government to collect intelligence about U.S. Navy service members and bases. This is according to Fox News, who says they're accused of recruiting other military members to carry out tasks for the country's main foreign intelligence service, the Ministry of State Security. If convicted, both men face a fine of up to $250,000 and up to 10 years behind bars. A federal magistrate judge says Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Salvadoran who was deported to El Salvador from Maryland back in March and then returned to the U.S. to face criminal charges of human smuggling, will stay in federal custody until at least mid-July over fears he's going to be deported. And the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022 has agreed to plead guilty and admit to all of his crimes. ABC's Alex Stone's at the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, Idaho, with details.
On Wednesday, Brian Koberger is expected to walk into this courthouse and change his plea to guilty under a deal with prosecutors that'll get him 4 consecutive life terms in prison, but he will avoid the death penalty. Steve Gonsalves' daughter, Kaylee, was one of the victims. He does not like the deal.
We were not prepared for this. We had no idea that this was going to happen.
With the deal and no trial, the families may never find out details of the crime, like a motive and what happened to the murder weapon. Alex Stone, ABC News, Boise, Idaho.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It happened. It has happened. In just the last few moments, we have a final vote in the Senate on the big, beautiful bill. And here's how it went down. The vice president is in the chair because it is so tight and so close that that they needed every vote they could possibly have. And so in the few moments ago, the final vote was taken, and it sounded just a little bit. Sorry, I'm getting everything set up here, just like this.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
And there was a smattering of applause in the room. I think they're exhausted. I mean, I think they're just exhausted. But there you have it. It's done. It has passed. The big, beautiful bill has passed the United States Senate and now goes back to the House of Representatives. Now, anything but clear what's going to happen over there. But I have a feeling that this measure is headed for passage, and we could have this easily on the president's desk, by the 4th of July. And that's just a couple of days away, this being the first day of July. This means that, when you look at the first day of July, it is exactly halfway through the calendar year. Trump took office in, January 20th, so a little less than 6 months. He has been able to push through his big, beautiful bill in the United States Senate. Heavy lift. Now, what you need to understand is that this bill, as it has passed the Senate, has changed dramatically from what the House sent over. In the reconciliation process, the House either has to go back and accept the changes that were made by the Senate. And by the way, some of the Senate changes are required because they just can't, how's that? Parliamentarian-wise, they can't get it across the goal line without some of the changes that they made. So the House has to accept this matter and say, okay, we'll take the Senate bill and we'll run with it and we'll accept it as our own. And then it goes to the president's desk for his signature. However, not clear at all that some people in the House are going to be able to get on board, and you can't afford to lose too many votes here. So what's going to happen? My sense of it is that the skids have been greased, and there may be some last-minute arm twisting, but I think it would be. Do you want to be the Republican who was responsible for a 68% tax increase? That's the bottom line. And I don't think that there are a lot of people who want to see a 68% tax increase on the Republican side of the equation. So I expect that this measure will pass. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than what we have? Yes. Is it a good bill? I think more good than bad. And one of the things we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of movement toward, getting tax cuts extended. You're going to see no taxes on tips in most cases. All kinds of real, help for middle-class Americans. All of this is all in this big, beautiful bill if they can get it across one more threshold, and that is the House of Representatives. But again, a few moments ago, here's what it sounded like as the vice president in the well to break the tie.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
There you go. Live updates. Here's from thehill.com. Here's what they have to say about it. The Senate gave President Trump, hang on a second. Sorry, my computer. The Senate gave President Trump's agenda a massive push forward in passing the big, beautiful policy bill 5150 after more than a day of debate with Vice President Vance casting the tie-breaking vote. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican of South Dakota, and allies worked overnight to reach a deal with Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican of Alaska, to pass the legislation. The upper chamber could afford to lose only 3 votes. Vice President Vance arrived around the Capitol around 6:30 this morning in case his vote was needed. After 26 hours of debate, the legislation has squeaked through. The measure now moves to the House for debate and a final vote before it heads to Trump's desk. The House Rules Committee is expected to convene Tuesday afternoon to craft rules for the legislation's consideration. See, in the House of Representatives, you have two things that have to happen. You got to pass the rule, and you got to pass the bill. And the rule basically establishes how you're going to go about passing the bill. The old saying is, you write the rule and I write the law and I'll win. So Republicans will write the rule largely, and it seems like maybe they can get this thing across. It could still get caught up in some kind of unforeseen thing. I mean, the question is, will they have enough votes in the House? And I think they will, but it's going to be close. Meanwhile, Trump is down in Florida, in the Florida Everglades, an area called Alligator Alcatraz. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Governor Ron DeSantis join him for a tour there, so he's out there doing all that. So we do have major victory here in that the Senate has passed the big, beautiful bill. What a huge thing this is for the president. And by the way, continues his streak of winning that began about a week ago. The last 7 to 10 days have been remarkable for this administration. Just win after win after win. We go in and we with impunity send our B-2 bombers into Iran to destroy their nuclear program and set it back quite a ways. That was how it all started. And then he goes to a NATO summit and gets everybody to pitch in 5%. That's a big deal. Followed by Supreme Court rulings that keep the judges off of his back. That was a big deal. And now, and there's about 5 or 6 other little things, but I mean, those are the big ones. And now the Senate has passed his big, beautiful bill. We are but one threshold, one big vote away from having this thing become the law of the land. And I think we're on track to get that kind of stuff done. Now, what an incredible day. Let's go through and see if we can find some other readouts here. From FoxNews.com, it talks about how the Senate has passed the big, beautiful bill. Here's CNN. Let me see what they got. Again, Senate GOP passes agenda bill after a marathon voting session. Lasted 50-50. Vice President Vance casting the tie-breaking vote. Headed to the House. High-stakes battle now looms. The bill must pass in the House before heading to the president's desk. And they're trying to get this all done before July 4th, which is Friday. In the bill, the roughly multi-trillion-dollar bill would unlock tax cuts, funding boosts for national security, partly paid for by the biggest cut to the federal safety net in decades. That's their take on it. There you go. So that has happened. I'll go to, let's go to ABC News, see what they say. Vance casts the tie-breaking vote. Here we go, CBS. Senate passes Trump's big, beautiful bill, 51-50 vote. NBC News. Senate narrowly passes massive Trump agenda bill. After a marathon voting session, the package heads back to the House where the GOP hopes to approve it and send it to Trump before July 4th. Man, what? I mean, it's just winning. It just continues to go. And one of the things, though, that has cropped up in the last little bit is that Elon Musk has once again reared his head and said, I don't like it. And I think we should have perhaps a third party in America. I don't know that that's going to happen. It seems like Americans, when you read the surveys that have been done, a lot of people don't like the idea of this big, beautiful bill, is what we're hearing. But here's why. You got a certain number of Democrats who don't like it and never will like it because it's Trump's bill, and anything that has to do with Trump, they're going to be again. If Trump is for it, they're against it. So there's a certain number of people out there who would say, no, this is not it. But those are largely Democrats. Then you have Republicans, and a fair number of them have been critical of it, of not going deep enough. But you have to pass a bill that can actually get the votes to pass, and that's what they have done. Elon Musk says what we need is a third party because we really, quite frankly, we just do not have the discipline to cut the budget the way the budget needs to be cut. The president's not pleased with him about those comments, but nonetheless, that's where we are. So what will happen in the House of Representatives? I think it's going to be too big to fail. I think it's going to be one of these situations where they look at it and they say, I don't want to be the Republican who is responsible for increasing taxes on the American people. So I suspect they'll find a way to get those votes. But there's some people in the House who are not at all happy with what the Senate did to this bill. I think what we've gotten out of the Senate is about the best you could hope for. The art of the possible, but who knows? So we're watching that. CNBC. By the way, markets are up. The Dow Jones Industrial on this news is up 490 points. That's pretty good. Oil is up only 48 cents. It's selling for $65.59 a barrel. Brent crude $67 a barrel. That's going good. But, I mean, overall, the Dow Jones Industrials are up about 1.13% on the news that this bill has been passed. And here's their story on it. Trump's mega bill squeaks through Senate, but House can still reject changes. The Senate on Tuesday passed President Donald Trump's mega bill after days of negotiations and a marathon amendment session that at times appeared to imperil the domestic policy package. The final vote, 51-50, with Vice President J.D. Vance casting a final tie-breaking vote. Senators Tom Tillis, Rand Paul, Susan Collins all broke with their party and voted against the massive spending bill. Lisa Murkowski, who was the subject of a great deal of arm twisting and last-minute negotiations, voted yes for the matter. Not entirely clear what she got in return for that, but it sounds like that. Now, what happens? Passing the hurdle today gave way to a marathon session of voting on amendments during a pressing call to Vote-A-Rama. Ultimately, none of the amendments fundamentally changed the bill, but Democrats seized on the process to force their GOP colleagues to go on the record on some politically tenuous positions. They played that game pretty well. The package, which seeks to codify Trump's sweeping domestic policy agenda, faces a tenuous path in the lower chamber. Hardline conservative House members such as Representative Chip Roy of Texas have voiced concern over what they view as the Senate using the July 4th deadline to force a vote in the lower chamber despite persistent opposition. Rumor is Senate plans to jam the House with its weaker, unacceptable OBBB before 7-4. One big, beautiful bill. This is not a surprise, but it would be a mistake. But he said he would not vote for it as it is. Do they have the votes? I think they probably have the votes. But there are going to be some who just say they can't go there. We'll see what happens there. So, I mean, I'm telling you, big doings. Senate passes Trump's one big, beautiful bill, Wall Street Journal. Republicans squeak President Trump's tax and spending mega bill through the Senate Tuesday, capping a long night of deal-making to win over holdouts with a tie-breaking vote from Vice President J.D. Vance. Three Republicans, Rand Paul of Kentucky, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, joined Democrats to vote against the bill. Murkowski was the final piece of the legislative puzzle, backing the bill after long discussions with Thune and other GOP leaders. She pushed for changes that would soften the blow of the bill's Medicaid and nutrition assistance cuts on her state for a slower phase-out of clean energy tax credits. So there you go. Man, I would have told you that I thought it was going to pass, but it was nip and tuck there for a while. And now we seem to be on track. This is another huge win for Trump. Another huge win. Let's call it 20 minutes now past the hour of 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand. And you're listening to The Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, the big, beautiful bill has cleared the U.S. Senate. It goes back to the House. So now what? And a televangelist, one of the most well-known, has passed away. We'll tell you about all these stories more at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, there's Ken Weaver in the newsroom, and there's a lot of news going on here today. We got this big, beautiful bill passed out of the United States Senate. Now it goes to the House. We've just gotten a readout from Senator Marsha Blackburn, who voted for the measure. She says the bill prevents an average tax hike of $2,660 for Tennesseans in 2026. In other words, if this measure had not gone through the Senate, it's still got to go through the House, but if it had not gone through the Senate, if it had failed here, you would have seen a $2,600 increase in your taxes next year. As well as a loss of $11.5 billion in wages, $22.5 billion in gross domestic product, and 129,000 lost jobs. That's what all could have happened, according to their number crunchers. Here's a breakdown, again, sent from the United States Senate of what is in the big, beautiful bill that just passed the Senate, now must pass the House. Provides economic relief for individuals, families, and businesses by securing the largest tax cut in American history by making the 2017 tax cuts from Trump permanent and stopping a $4 trillion tax hike. It would cut taxes on overtime pay and tips. Hey, making permanent and increasing the enhanced child tax credit, giving American families an average take-home pay increase of over $10,000 a year, boosting America's level of real GDP from 4.6 to 4.9, empowering Tennessee businesses to hire more workers, open new factories, and spur economic growth, saving the average Tennessean, as I said, $2,600 a year in taxes. Keeps tax breaks for the 99.5% of businesses in Tennessee that are small businesses. So it also secures the border, completing President Trump's border wall, increasing the number of ICE agents that have been hired, increasing detention capacity so that dangerous criminals are not released into the country, investing in state and local law enforcement to facilitate cooperation with federal law enforcement efforts, providing for permanent operational control of the border, and would root out waste, fraud, and abuse and strengthen programs like Medicaid, Medicare, and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. It ensures on America's military remains the world's most lethal fighting force by investing in the Golden Dome for America, shipbuilding, the defense industrial base, and new technologies to modernize our military. Reduces government spending by $1 trillion. That's not chump change, marking one of the largest reductions in federal spending in recent history. Facilitates energy independence by unleashing American energy production. I mean, that is a lot of things that this bill brings to the table. And as I look at it, it feels like to me that if we get this thing through the House of Representatives and becomes the law of the land, signed in by the president before the 4th of July or around the 4th of July, that it will supercharge the economy of this country. I really believe that with every fiber of my being. And everybody's worried about, Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP and all of that. Basically, as I understand it, what they have added here is means testing, which means that you're not eligible for these things unless you find yourself these programs that are supposed to be there for the people who just don't make enough money to help them out. But the problem is some people are working the system and they're choosing not to work rather than, and still getting the benefits. What this says is you got to work if you can work. I love that. This is not near as powerful as what Bill Clinton did back in the day. Say what you will about Bill Clinton, but he put a means test for welfare recipients. Means if you can work, you got to work. And that's the way it should be. Let's see. Provide additional funding for the Oak Ridge National Laboratory here in Tennessee. So a lot of things that are very powerful about this bill that are going to be a good addition if we can now get it through the House of Representatives. I just keep coming back to the conclusion that nobody in the House of Representatives has an R after his name, wants to be the person who is responsible for this bill going down and everybody's taxes going up. So I would say there's a pretty good chance that this will pass, but who knows? Everybody, has to make their last minute grab as the train is leaving the station. But just to bring you up to speed, the Senate has passed the big, beautiful bill. A huge accomplishment. A lot of people thought they might not be able to do it, but it is through the Senate. Now goes back to the House. The House has to accept the changes that have been made by the Senate. Some members are not going to like that, but nonetheless, that's what they have to do. And if that happens, then it will be on the president's desk by the 4th of July. You know what they say about the 4th of July? Corn's supposed to be knee-high by the 4th of July. By the 4th of July, you need to get this bill passed. It's going to get harder and harder and harder the longer it goes. You've really got about 6 months to get this accomplished, and it appears that they are on track to do just that. So we're watching big developments in Washington today as the I call it the BBB, but it's actually the OBBB, the one big beautiful bill has passed the United States Senate and now goes back to the House for consideration. It is 30 minutes past the hour. Ken Weaver's got the news right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And the U.S. Senate just passed President Trump's tax cut and spending bill.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
So it squeaks through the Senate, but changes could be rejected when it gets back to the House. We'll have to see. Wall Street responded positively to the news. The Dow shot up 500 points. And Tennessee U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn claims that passage of this bill spares Tennesseans from a more than $2,600 tax increase next year. President Trump, meanwhile, visiting a migrant detention facility in the Florida Everglades today, nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz. On a tour of the site with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, President Trump said other states are building detention sites.
We have Louisiana doing it big, Alabama's doing it. We have a lot of states. They seem to be red states. There are not too many blue states for whatever reason. But the red states, Republican-run states, are doing it. The blue states don't do very well at security and policing.
Yeah, the site's been the subject of protests by local tribal communities, environmental groups, immigration advocates. 2 Chinese nationals are under arrest for allegedly spying and conducting secret operations for China's Ministry of State Security. They were caught dropping off 10 grand in what is called a dead drop on behalf of the MSS. They're accused of trying to get intelligence about U.S. Navy service members and bases while recruiting other military members to carry out tasks for them. If convicted, both these Chinese nationals, 2 men, could face a fine of up to $250,000 and spend up to 10 years in prison. Televangelist Jimmy Swaggart has passed away. On his Facebook page, it says he met his beloved Savior, entered the portals of glory. He died in Louisiana after being hospitalized for the past 2 weeks, according to a family representative. Jimmy Swaggart was 90. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It's 36 minutes past the hour, 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair for Chris Hand. Chris Hand will be in next, I think, filling in for Chad Benson, and Chad Benson will fill in for Matt Murphy today. Yes, it's musical chairs. It's hard to keep up. You need a dance card to keep up with everything going on here. But we believe that Matt Murphy will be back following the 4th of July holiday, and not a moment too soon. And then I can go back to being retired. Hey, so we got big news happening as in the last few minutes. The big, beautiful bill has passed the Senate, now goes to the House. One big vote in the House, and it goes to the president's desk. Looks like this thing is moving. And it was nip and tuck there for a while, but it has happened. So there is that. The president of the United States is down in the swamps of Florida looking at the alligator Alcatraz, which is a facility that's been put in place by the state of Florida to hold people who are in this country illegally before they are removed from the country. In the other news, you heard in the newscast, Jimmy Swaggart has passed away. The preacher, sort of evangelical preacher, and he was caught up in scandal at one time or another. He was the last of the three cousins. Did you know that did you know this, Ken Weaver? That Jerry Lee Lewis, Mickey Gilley, and Jimmy Swaggart are all cousins? They are. They are indeed. So there you have that. And a lot of stuff going on. I want to, in the last few minutes, we've been so focused on making sure we were up to speed on everything happening in Washington today, that there's a lot of other stuff that I want to try to get into the show before we have to go. Grand Ayatollah of Iran has issued a fatwa to kill Donald Trump. Shockingly, the Grand Ayatollah Makarem Shirazi has issued a fatwa against Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu. They've been talking about this for a long time. Iran nearly succeeded in orchestrating an assassination of former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo at a European hotel in 2022. And then candidate Donald Trump and his campaign were told by intelligence officials last September that the longtime U.S. foe had recruited hitmen that were active at the time on American soil, according to a forthcoming book about the 2024 presidential campaign. So you got a fatwa going on. And by the way, Netanyahu's on his way to Washington next Monday. Netanyahu to visit Washington on Monday, sources tell the Jerusalem Post. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, they will meet at the White House April 7th. I'm sorry, no, it's a picture of them meeting April 7th. They'll meet here next Monday. Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer will arrive in Washington on Monday, a source told the Jerusalem Post. The cabinet held a discussion and will wait to hear about Dermer's meetings in Washington before considering additional significant steps in Gaza. On Sunday, U.S. President Donald Trump called for a deal to be made in Gaza and to get the hostages back in a post to Truth Social. So Benjamin Netanyahu coming to Washington and see what happens with regard to that. With regard to Iran, Trump says he would bomb Iran if it enriched uranium. Some people have looked at the damage that was done by the big bunker busters, and they have determined that it was seriously damaged, setting back the nuclear program of Iran for years. Other people look at it and say months. I don't know. There's some activity there. It's one of the nuclear sites, Fardal. There's a lot of activity there. But what would happen if they got to the position where they could enrich uranium again? Trump says, well, we'll just bomb them one more time. Sure, without question. Absolutely, he said. So that's on the record. He says he believes they're exhausted, and the last thing that they're thinking about is nuclear. I don't believe they're going to go back into nuclear anytime soon. They spent over $1 trillion on nuclear. They never got it together, and nothing was moved from that site. That's the position of the president. You have to tell the truth, he said, and they got beat up pretty bad. United States used B-2 bombers and dropped 6 massive ordnance penetrators or bunker busters on the site. 6. While Israel had caused damage to nuclear sites, only the United States said they had the ability to destroy Fordow. So there you go. Here's good news. The Trump administration's customs revenue has topped $100 billion. This is the tariffs. The United States has collected now more than $100 billion in custom revenue since President Trump took office. Why it matters? The vast majority of that is from tariffs, as Trump's trade policy began to generate substantial income for the government. Driving the news, total customs revenue from actions taken since January 20th hit $106.1 billion. Wow. Yeah, look, I got to tell you, the whole thing with the tariffs. Boy, everybody made us think that this was, if you had the tariffs, the tariffs were in place, it was going to cause inflation, it was going to cause a recession, things were going to go up, in cost of living was going to go up. You know what has happened? None of that has happened. None of it has happened. You put money in our coffers because of the tariffs. You have a situation right now where we are keeping gas prices low. Inflation has not gone up. We are not even close to having anything that resembles a serious recession or what do you call it? Recession or any kind of serious inflation. So most of that, $81.5 billion, is from tariffs imposed since January 20th. The revenue from Trump's sweeping global levies is substantially higher than in past years. This is helping. It's part of the reason why you got money going into the coffer. You got your gas prices staying low. Wages are up. I mean, across the board, good news, good news, good news, good news. And already collected over $100 billion in tariff money that goes into the bottom line. And then you got a leading economist who previously had criticized President Donald Trump, now reevaluating his position, suggesting that the administration's tariff strategy might have been more effective than originally thought. This is Torsten Slok. You know, Torsten Slok. He's the chief economist at Apollo Global Management. He published new commentary acknowledging that the Trump administration use of tariffs could serve both as a source of federal revenue and a strategic economic tool. Slok's recent analysis sharply contrasts with earlier predictions in which he warned that the imposition of tariffs could lead to economic instability and trigger recession. Inflation, recession didn't happen. Slok's latest assessment, you ready for this? Talk about a 180. Maybe the administration has outsmarted all of us. He suggested that extending the current tariff framework for one more year could help businesses and trade partners adjust to what he called a new world with permanently higher tariffs. This would seem like a victory for the world and would yet produce $400 billion of annual revenue for U.S. taxpayers. Wow, I'll take it. Trade partners will be happy with only 10% tariffs and U.S. tax revenue will go up. The president has said China's we got to deal with China. We got to deal with India. The Canadians were being tough, and it looked like we might not get a deal with them. But then the president said that basically they had come to terms after Canada basically blinked and took down one of their proposals. And that means that we are moving forward in that regard. It's happening. Everybody said it wouldn't happen. It is happening in a good way. And Slok said, Torsten Slok says, hey, Trump may have had it right and the rest of us may have had it wrong. I mentioned that part of the reason why inflation has been held in check is because the oil prices have been kept low. Gasoline prices have been kept low. Listen to this from CNN. 4th of July gas hasn't been this cheap since 2021. Drivers hitting the road this 4th of July weekend won't need to break the bank to fill up the gas pump. Gas prices expected to average between $3.10 and $3.15 nationally. Not here. In Tennessee, I think it's cheaper. That's down from $3.49 a gallon last year and would represent the cheapest gas for the summer holiday since at least 2021. There you go. Here's another version of that story from the Washington Examiner. Gas prices decrease at the pumps heading into the big holiday weekend. The price drop on Friday was stark contrast to last week when gas prices increased up to 8 cents. But that was because we were unsure about what might happen in the Mideast. Fuel costs gradually started trending downward earlier this month. However, as is customary every year during the summer, gas prices increase as people go on vacation and use more gasoline. This year, the typical summer gas price surge coincided with increased tensions. Yet despite the recent increases, especially considering the geopolitical friction, fuel costs have remained relatively stable. That's great news, isn't it? Many states nationwide experienced statewide average gas prices below the $3 threshold. Earlier in June, 28 states had an average gas price of under $3 per gallon. So, I mean, look, as long as the gas prices stay low and wages are up, inflation will remain in check. I mean, I think we are this close to having what I think will be a tremendous economic surge in this country. If you can get these tax cuts implemented and codified, if you can get, all of these spending cuts that are in this big, beautiful bill passed into law, and again, I think it's headed that way, I think it's going to supercharge the economy. The only thing that's missing is lower interest rates. And Jerome Powell and the president are exchanging tit for tat on that because the president believes interest rates should be coming down. And if you had the combination of the big, bad, beautiful bill, tax cuts, a reduction in things like for people who work for tips, they're not going to have their taxes tipped. Their tips taxed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you're not going to have that happen. And if you had lower interest rates, it would be the cherry on the sundae. Man, it really would be. Things would really start to pop. I think they're going to pop anyway. And I don't think that Jerome Powell can hold out much longer. I think he's going to have to lower interest rates because I think this is going to prove that the economy is moving in a very positive way. And the last thing we need now is high interest rates. Get that done and just sit back and watch. I mean, what we're seeing now already is what happens when the federal government gets out of the way and lets the free enterprise system do its thing. Get out of the way, get rid of regulation, and just let the economy do what the free enterprise system does. It will prosper if you just get out of its way. And if we were to add to that lower interest rates, it would be unstoppable. I mean, we're going to have a huge economic boom in this country. It's coming. It's right on the horizon. You know what else is on the horizon? He said, making a transition. This is what you call a segue. It's the Chad Benson Show. And we'll check in with Chad in just a few moments to see what he has on tap, what kind of things he's going to be talking about. Right now, it's 50 minutes past the hour of 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 55 minutes past the hour, 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair well, it's for Chris Hand. And then guess what? Normally it'd be Chad Benson, but we're throwing everybody a curveball today. We're playing musical chairs. Coming up next to carry you from noon to 3 will be Chris Hand.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing? And have you enjoyed doing the afternoon show?
It's been fun, man. It's been fun. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to it. And side note, it's been an absolute treat listening to you 9 to noon, man.
That's so kind. Thank you.
It really is, though. It's great to hear you. But you know, from doing afternoons, it's such a different ball game as far as prep goes. With the 9 to 12 shift, you can kind of do the majority of it the night before and kind of do a re-up in the morning and just make sure you didn't miss anything.
Well, you do it the night before, you do it a re-up, and then you know, things are happening during your show.
Yeah, it's crazy. But then, you know, with the afternoon show, it's like, you know, I'm actually doing the day's news, so it's been really fun, man. It's been a blast.
You get to put the coda on the end of the day. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
anyway.
yeah.
So everything going well with you, and what do you got on tap for today?
Man, everything is going great. I mean, we're just getting ready for 4th of July. We've been do you decorate the house for 4th of July?
Oh yeah. We got you know I don't know what you call those little things. The banners.
Yep.
You know, the little half circle banners that you put up at rodeos and stuff like that.
Love it.
We got those up around the pool.
Yeah.
We have an inflatable Uncle Sam.
Let's go.
Is floating in the pool.
That's awesome.
I mean, we're all ready. We're ready. And we're having the big 4th of July here in Watertown, where we have the squirt gun parade.
Woo, let's go.
You go and everybody brings a squirt gun, and with the exception of the horses and the you know, the classic cars at the beginning of the parade, it's fair game. Politicians squirt them. But here's the thing, the politicians will squirt you back.
Oh man, we might have to make a trip out to Watertown with the kids. I don't know if this is a parade that they're going to want to miss.
Well, yeah, you do that. Come to the parade. It starts at 4:00 in Watertown, and then you and the fam drop by the house afterwards because we're doing a little pool party until it's time for fireworks.
Oh, let's go, man! That sounds like an absolute blast. Yeah, we were decorating yesterday. The kids, they have a tradition where they run around the neighborhood and we have all these flags that they keep in storage, the HOA does. And so they deck the islands with the flags. And then we broke out the tea-stained Betsy Ross 13 stars to hang up, and we put the regular flag home. You know, we put it away. And then me and my wife, we got into a bit of a disagreement, Brian. And you tell me who's in the right here.
I'll decide who's right and who's wrong. I'll be the arbiter.
So one year for Christmas, I get my wife, you know, I get her the garden flags, and there's one for every month, you know, every themed holiday that you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But I also got a garden flag right before November of 2024 that was a Donald Trump flag. And so we had a bit of a debate about which one is more patriotic, the Trump garden flag or the 4th of July garden flag. I lost.
You know, every time we go to like an event for the station, people are always bringing us flags, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've got about 10. I have a bunch of flags. I have flags that were flown over the Capitol, which are now flying over my garage.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I have a Wilson County flag, which I think is one of the rarest of flags. Do you know Wilson County has its own flag?
I did not know that. What does it look like?
It's pretty, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
All right, well, I'll have to take a look.
I'll shoot you a picture.
Yeah. Send me a pic. I want to take a look. But yeah, no, we're excited, man. We get excited for the 4th of July at my house. We decorate.
I love the 4th of July, and I see this story that says that Americans are not as proud of being Americans as they once were. Republicans are. 92% of Republicans are proud to be Americans.
So it's
but it's like 20 some odd % of Democrats.
It's so funny you say that, because when me and my wife were getting into it about the garden flag for Trump, she said, "Chris, we have an American flag up. Everybody will know that we support Trump anyway."
That's right. All right. Well, listen, you've got a lot of things happening on your watch here, so stay tuned, everybody, for Chris Hand in for Chad Benson, and Chad Benson will be in for Matt Murphy, and I will be back here tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
Hey, appreciate you so much, Brian. It's been an absolute treat listening to you, man. You're one of the greatest.
Well, thank you very much. I'll talk to you later. It is now 59 minutes past the hour. Time for the news with